Have you ever talked to a friend, a coworker, maybe even boss, relative, and you're talking to them and things just seem off, like their ego gets in the way, or maybe your ego gets in the way, and the communication is just off? Well, today we're going to talk about those ego states, because the key is if you can learn how to control your ego state, then you can kind of learn how to control other people's ego states. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the forest. I'm glad y'all are here with me today. We're going to be talking about these ego states, and I like to study something called transactional analysis. And I don't know why we don't talk about it more in the United States, but it's really powerful once you learn it. And it's pretty simple. It talks about the ego states. 3 primary ego states. You have the parent, you have the adult, and you have the child. So inside of our mind, sometimes we play these different roles. Sometimes we get into a parent role. Now see, each one of the side ego states has 2 different sides. For example, the parent can either be nurturing or the parent can be critical. The child can be playful, or the child can be what they call the adaptive child, and that's the one that kind of learns how to deal with society. The carefree child, the playful child, is happy, joyful, but that adaptive child is the one that learns shame, that learns fear, that learns doubt. That's where all that sort of stuff comes in. And for our own internal struggles, what happens is we have these states, these ego states in our minds kind of battling each other. We have this critical parent telling ourselves we're bad, we're unworthy, something bad's going to happen, and that adaptive child gets scared and kind of reacts to that. Well, the reason this is so important is because when we're dealing with other people, then they also have these ego states. Now, the main goal is for us to try to stay in the adult state. The adult state, when we're putting these parts together, the adult state is the part that is rational, that's calm. Usually we like to all think of ourselves as in the adult state, but truth be told, we get triggered. When we say we get triggered by people, we're usually getting pushed into a state that we don't mean to be. Usually it's a childlike state, especially if we're talking with people that are like narcissists or control freaks. When they slip into these parent states and they talk to us, we fall into the child state. And I'm going to be creating a little cheat sheet for you all that kind of explains all of this too, and that way you can maybe understand a little bit better. I like visuals, so I hope that that'll help you. I'll include the link in the description, so I hope you find that helpful. So the key becomes understanding our ego states, the parent states, the child states. When we're talking about other people and they slip into these other states, here's the key with transactional analysis. We're going to analyze the transaction. And the reason this is so important is because if you can learn to control your ego state, then you can start to control the ego state of the other people. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to a buddy recently, and he kind of slipped into a critical parent role. And if I am in the adult state even, the thing is the transaction gets crisscrossed. The parent's up here, the adult's here, and the transaction's crisscrossed. In order for us to have effective communication with other people, we have to be on the same level. We need to talk to adult, or sometimes parent, or child and child. So those transactions are called parallel transactions. The problem is when they get crisscrossed, and so when the parent is talking to the child, there's a crisscross. And so when I was talking to my buddy the other day, he comes and he's kind of being critical. And so I, without controlling myself and controlling my ego, I fall into the child type state. And that's just not good communication. And when you do that, you kind of let people control you. When other people slip into that parent role, and some people live in that parent role. Some of us, kinder, gentler kind of folks, we can let people run all over us. And that's that adaptive child trying to people please. And these people that are all in their parent know that, so they manipulate us. Well, Later on in the day, that buddy called me, and I could tell he was kind of in a more playful mode. He was kind of in the child state. And so then rather than me talking to him from the adult state, which would have been kind of a crisscross transaction, I met him where he was, and that's the key, meeting people where they are. And when I started interacting with him in a more childlike kind of way, then suddenly his child was, I know it sounds crazy, right? But I mean, his inner child's getting kind of like, okay, well, this is cool, we're safe, all that sort of stuff. And then after that, he was able to get into the adult state. That's where I wanted him to be, because I wanted us to have an adult conversation. I wanted us to be able to talk adult to adult. And so that's what happened. And so that's the key, is when you can learn how to manage your own ego state, then the other people around you will learn to adapt. And so the key really is to try to stay in that adult ego state. But when you notice someone becoming a critical parent, or you notice someone becoming kind of childish with that inner child thing going on, or maybe they're being too sensitive, like all sorts of things can be coming from that adaptive child, then what we need to do is try our best to either, we meet them where they are, and then be that strong adult ego state for them, and that usually will pull the people back up. But don't try to meet them, if it's the critical parent and you're feeling vulnerable and you're feeling like that inner child is being attacked, that is not the time to be interacting with the person trying to resolve issues and frustrations. You either wait until you can get to a point where you can be in the adult state, or you just somehow immediately kind of force yourself into that adult state. You can sort of get into the parent state and try to meet them there, but that kind of builds some conflict too. So the main goal is trying to get our ego states together, stay in that adult state, and that way, when we're interacting with the other people, we can kind of not manipulate. We can encourage them to become adults in that adult state with us too. And I'm telling you, your interactions will be so much better with people. I really will. So give that a try. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment below. Let me know how this kind of works, or if you've ever even heard of transactional analysis. I don't know why we don't talk about it more here. Please also like and subscribe. It lets YouTube know who to send these kind of videos out to. And I hope that you all will stay grateful, and I hope that you'll stay kind. And as always, I'm grateful for each and every one of you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.